Hang up. 6 3.
He draws near the periphery in disbelief found delivery. Came child from the deep inferno, crusty head of lead volcano, heart this crow with brittle beak, wouldn't like to shock to speak. I lacked our step of a meter, a wooden cars of paper, forever stoneware, her body lay, a sack of feathers, a pile of hay, a mushroom for an eyeball, a mustache from the snowfall. Worms weaving with very square dance, queens weave wigs with eyelash. Trance music makes the fairies dance. From the caves of snail showers echoes the mighty medieval spowers. Mystery flows her wicked river of flowing and blade and silver sliver, bending round the clover fields. There's happening stems don't break but yield. Her pain inflicts no arguments must learn to sway and arrange as that she makes her final passage after humans long have ravaged.
Welcome. We are here to do enneaGOD's first celebrity typing of CocoRosie, who is a band that is currently doing their 20-year tour. Personally, I have been listening to CocoRosie for about 18 years. I first discovered them on my pro skater ex-boyfriend's skating video, and I was like, what is this? Like, what the fuck is this? And I have been just absolutely hooked ever since. They have a sound that is just unparalleled, and I dive deeper into their songs just every single day, both lyrically and musically.
Yeah, and I've been listening to them since I was about 17, and there's this very compelling thing going on in their music. They have these incredible dichotomies between beauty and ugliness, and like darkness and light in the heart space. So that'll be really interesting to examine what that means typologically.
Definitely. And I know that you and I, Renee, often comment on an affinity for these kinds of juxtapositions. So I think it makes sense that we're drawn to this band for that reason, definitely. And introducing myself. I'm Mary Lydia. I'm a sexual social 2-wing-3-297.
I'm Renee, SPSX 947.
All right. So do you want to start us off with listening to one of their songs and being able to see some of the unusual instruments that they bring in?
So that's probably a good little teaser of what their music sounds like, and the way that they use instruments, the way that they take children's toys and classical instruments and just put these things all together to create this really lush, textured soundscape.
And I think there's, just in this alone, we can find a lot of typological relevance. So, we like 9-7, I kind of think of as like, fairy territory. But also kind of, I think something that's captured in the personality of 9-7 together is this kind of forever childlike sense. And so in that way, I love that they're using specifically children's toys here. And it's fascinating that they're encapsulating in their sound both the wonder and the magic and the beauty and the excitement of childhood, and the things that are like tragic and dark and make you feel lost. All of that kind of exists within their sound to me.
Yeah. And yeah, there's just something that feels very, very seven about taking all of these different instruments and like reaching a level of not necessarily mastery, but proficiency to do what you need to do with it and then putting it to use.
Definitely. And like who else in the music world is using a harp and a kazoo and little
At the same time.
right. It's incredible and definitely speaks to this kind of seven gluttony of just wanting to reach for and grab all the things that sound fun and beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
All right, shall we go into an interview?
Sure.
We weren't raised with television, and particularly with our first record, we never imagined that any of that material was suitable for television. But funny enough, it's been the most commercially sought after of our records. And a certain song was chosen with some very, what I would call subversive lyrics, discussing incest and rape in a very personal way, and that was selected for a very mainstream type of commercial. And they deliberated over it for 6 months, so they must have scrutinized it, the lyrics, and had whole rooms full of men around the table. Yeah. So for us, it was really shocking and bizarre that someone would want to use that for a commercial. But it seemed like a good tricky entry point into this aspect of the world and of the mainstream, like a funny back door that we really never intended to enter.
And was it fun to the Prada thing and sort of the fashion world as being sort of what it is sometimes? How did that feel?
We really enjoy like a chameleon kind of spirit. We don't have like kind of conservative point of view on what we can and can't do. So really we like to find ourselves in awkward contexts, and something like that can bring on some new and peculiar feelings.
Okay.
So right there we have some interesting evidence for Bianca's part. You want to say something about that, Mary Lydia?
What really struck me in that, for one thing, sorry, I'm not answering your question, but it just really stood out to me this time in watching it was the instinctual relevance of her answer here. Like she's got this social awareness of, context of being on television and what that means and what that represents to people. You know, she makes mention of some things about, and she doesn't say it specifically here, but she does in plenty of other interviews, but she's kind of referencing, you know, what she views as the patriarchy and sort of women and how we're received by others in society. And so, yeah, the instinctual relevance of this one just really jumped out at me more than anything.
Yeah, the way that she said rooms full of men was very loaded.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. But it's also interesting the way that she's like weaving this narrative of their otherness, the way that she's like, well, we weren't raised with television, this whole, like, we are outside of this like mainstream understanding of the media and the world, while still also displaying a very like acute understanding of what it all means.
Right. And there's also this sense of, you know, I didn't expect it to be selected for television. So there's this underlying sense of like, I'm not really sure that my creation has been understood here. Like, it's definitely being put into a context that I wouldn't expect it to be, because it's probably, they're not really getting it. But that makes it sort of funny, you know?
Right, yeah, they were talking about how it was like a useful vehicle to like further their own artistic agenda.
Right. So here's a way to send my message that because you don't get it, you've selected. And that's funny.
Even though red's not your color, I'll dress you in feathers and fly you in the windy weather like a child bird marooned on an island of cats. Little dewy brawling cats with cross eyes and hats. They take mercy on you, they take you for walks. The mercy choir singing dismal hymns, watery Bible rims all jumbled in mess. A mess of bright graves and flowers and blue.
So here's the same interview, but a different video, part 2 of it.
Of course it doesn't scare us. I think that's the whole idea of putting something out there. You have your thing and then you manifest it, and then if you choose to do so, and also if God willing there's someone to receive, you put it out there in the world. That's really that's the whole next mysterious chapter, is the whole interaction phase, which potentially can live far past your physical lifetime and is much more relevant in the end, I think. So when people say, what were you intending, or what did that mean, it's all hogwash really for us, because it doesn't officially come across. Something comes across, and perhaps a stirring, if we can stir people in their beds.
Stimulate.
We have no fears around that loss of control. I think that's such a relief. Just get it out there. Just like stop controlling the thing, you know.
So that quote in particular is really interesting. I think it's got a lot of 9-wing-1 in it and a lot of 4. There's the way that she says what she was intending, like, it doesn't officially come across. Like, there's this inherent assumption of like, you're not going to get it. Like, the thing that I'm saying is not going to come across just automatically.
Right.
But the bit where she's talking about like it's a relief to birth the art and to just get it out there and just like, oh, stop controlling it. Like that feels very like withdrawn, with frustration. Got it.
Yes, and this I think a combination maybe also helps ultimately with the production and the birthing of things. a combination of both social self-pres and her 9-wing-1 gut, because she wants to leave some sort of legacy. She wants to leave these treasures for people to maybe try to decipher for years on end or something. It's like, I don't want to birth nothing, so I'm going to birth this thing that you're not going to understand for centuries to come or whatever.
I love that.
Yeah.
Great legacy to leave.
Yes.
I think there was some more good stuff in this video, so I'm going to keep playing it.
Sounds good.
That's 6. It's kind of a simple idea. Like, if you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend and they want to have sex with you all the time, I've found that for me to be really in the mood creatively, actually, I need to have quite a bit of libido and stuff stored up. Not something that I've just dulled out, just like slopped it around for everyone else to enjoy. Something like store that up and start to get intoxicated by it.
Basically blue balls.
Yeah.
Blue balls. Yeah, you get just like that frustration, that tension can I think lead you to higher places intellectually and spiritual, creatively. Hang out by yourself a little bit, turn everything off and just like listen, let the voices come. If you're busy worrying about somebody else, yeah, you can lose a little steam.
So that one is really interesting. That obviously she used the word frustration, but beyond that, it feels very frustration coded. This feels like she's talking about frustration without necessarily knowing about that particular like typological structure. Talking about like building up this energy and like perpetuating that state of things not being right in order to like continue generating, not diffusing it.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And like it's really fascinating because with withdrawn, they are having trouble accessing this life force energy, this gut fire that you get. And I guess what strikes me about that is this idea of harnessing libido as something to fuel that, to give a little fire in the gut, to allow something to come forth and be produced is really interesting and makes a lot of sense. But also, as you said, I mean, I'm 7 fixed, so I've got some frustration influence. And I think that what also stands out to me is this idea, and this probably connects back to what you said as well, this idea that like, I know I cannot actually get the thing that exists in my imagination. I know that there's no way to produce that in the real world. It's never going to translate. I know this, but there is also something about the longing and the tragedy and the continual thirst for that that also drives me to keep producing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And this is something that we've talked about amongst ourselves, but I found that like experiencing like physical hunger can help elevate creative states. Like there is a way that with withdrawn influence and also frustration, you can kind of like hack your way into a creative state by like amplifying specific energies of longing, whether it's longing for like some sort of physical sensation like hunger, libido, or some sort of emotional longing.
Yeah, I mean, how how many creations exist because of longing for love. Like like that's created tons and tons of plays, songs, books, so I think, yeah, longing can be this sort of fire that can fuel withdrawn and frustration influence, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, I'm going to keep playing this one. I think
Yes.
there was more.
Well, it sticks in my mind as a moment of rebirth. I was trespassing onto a public property, a swimming pool, an outdoor swimming pool, and it was the middle of the night, and then we were caught, and I was naked on the top of a fence very near to a German Shepherd that was leaping at my naked butt. And there was really bright lights on me, and I just, like, for a moment, as I, like, jumped into a safe region and hurtled over the fence, for a moment I just froze and just was, like, filled with a golden light. I don't know if it was due to the like, the white light in my eyes, but I just was, like, became a new person for a moment. And was really happy to be free and not, because I'm really afraid of dogs. And
And you love being caught naked.
and I do like being caught naked. Streaking has been, like, a really big thing for me in my childhood, so it was kind of recycling of that passion, and that was a really moment when I was reborn.
Cool.
So, what do you think of that story?
I mean, again, it it gives me, I mean, there's buzzwords there, right? Like
Mhm.
referencing rebirth to me seems very potentially 9-wing-1-ish.
Mhm.
There's, again, this draw to play, and to play with maybe what is more, I mean, what's more childlike ultimately than, like, being naked? Like, that's how we came into the world, so there is something about being born that maybe one can connect to through not wearing clothes. But yeah, it's also just, we know it's not, I guess what I'm trying to say is there's a way that it's pushing against superego a little bit, because, she loves streaking, and she loves doing this in a way that she knows is not really acceptable. Like, there's
Mhm.
almost like a little angel on her shoulder, like, you probably shouldn't do that because you're in public. And then her other side is like, but it's fun and let's do it.
Right. There's a seven-ish thrill in the naughtiness of it all.
Exactly. Okay, so before we jump into the next video, I think, what we're seeing definitely in both Bianca and Sierra is frustration influence, withdrawn influence. For Bianca, we're seeing some 4-9 and a 7 fix. I think that's already quite a bit clear. And then for Sierra, we're seeing some 9-7, and haven't necessarily caught a glimpse of what her heart fix is yet.
Mhm. Yeah. So, in this video, hopefully we'll get some evidence there.
Yes.
When did you come up with the album title?
When?
Yeah, when? Was it during the recordings, before the recordings, after the recordings?
It was after the recordings. But I think we first sung about the Grass Widow just before we made the record. We did another song called We Are on Fire.
Yeah.
And also we did some theatrical work and some dance pieces together and some exhibitions that all touched on the theme of the Grass Widow, which is about an abandoned child in our version of the Grass Widow. It's not a widow who's mourning the loss of a husband, but a child that's mourning the loss of innocence.
And how has she lost the innocence, the child?
All kinds of tragic ways, mostly. Sometimes more subtle ways, just being neglected and not being received, not being seen, becoming invisible. The Grass Widow is a faceless and nameless character which incarnates in different ways. We do touch on some subjects such as child marriage.
And child bride, so.
Yeah, and child bride. The child bride is in our story, it's a true story about a 5-year-old girl who's married off to an adult, and we explore from her perspective, you know, what she could be thinking and feeling in a situation like that. It's not, she's not angry, she actually has no idea what's happening to her. And her fear is really just about being lonely, and she finds comfort only in the natural world. One of her friends is the sparrow who brings her news. And it illustrates the fantasy world of the little girl who's, I guess, projecting certain kind of human relationships into her relationship with animals and plants.
So, child, you were saying, what is it also some sort of metaphor for the earth and the world we are living in right now? Loss of innocence, mankind, because also a song about, well, it's called Tears for Animals, but it's about love for the humankind. If we have lost it, the song with Anthony, is it also something to do with that?
That song is about the need for love. Maybe that indicates a loss, certainly, that there is such a need for compassion in a world that has a very strange balance and a strange focus where all the power is in the hands of men. The song talks about having love for humankind and refers to those of us that do see solutions and do have a sense of hope, taking a hold of the compassion that is within us and using it to reach out and teach others. And we're through songs like that, and just kind of, in general, we're asking people to think about these things and to think about the way we treat children and women and the way we treat the earth, and seeing that those treatments are so very similar. And just to talk about it, start dialogues about this stuff.
Yeah. There's also a song, End of Time. Are we close to it? To the end of time?
Well, I hope not. It seems like things are at a very urgent place, and the earth is giving us signs that things are not well. So
one sign? Can you give me one sign that the earth is giving right now?
Well, the change in climate and the purity of the water and the way the animals are responding to that. The End of Time is a song about the end that may come or that may be here, or personally, my vote is it's passing, actually, and that we are on the brink of a new beginning. So this is, more directly what the song means to me. It's about facing the end of things and seeing that if there is a continuation, that we must evolve and be ready to transform in our ideas and our perspectives, and that yes, it's possible. So it is, in a way, a gloom way of considering hopeful ideas and solutions.
So not meaning literally that the earth will end, but meaning the ideas and how people will live their lives.
Mm-hmm.
It's been 3 years since your previous album. How do you look back on that album?
I'm just going to pause it so we can talk about what we've seen so far in that.
Yeah, lots jumping out in this one.
Mm-hmm.
I think for one thing, the frustration in both of them becomes palpable at more. I mean, it's ever present for Bianca, definitely, but there also is a point where the interviewer is asking a clarification question that's almost redirecting what Sierra's trying to say, and she has to like take a moment of like, and then answer. So yeah, you can feel all of the frustration happening in this video.
Yeah. And there are a few questions, he's not asking the right questions at any point. And Bianca appears to be so frustrated that she can't even speak. She can't even engage with it.
And when she's starting out, describing, I mean, on one hand, she's describing the meaning of and the significance of some of the songs and symbols that they have within the songs and that have shown up in various forms of their art. So she is a little bit revealing, some of the secrets and the symbols, but she's also kind of not, which is a very, it's like withdrawn baiting, as we call it. She's giving you a little bit, and then you have to, if you're worthy and if you're able to see more, then you'll be able to determine the rest. And so then the fact that the interviewer asked exactly the wrong question to uncover these sort of self symbols that they're using, is even it's just frustrating, and it just shows that he's not worthy. So at a certain point, she just shuts down and she just will not say any more about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's also, to me, some of her, I mean, this is kind of like vibe and look and impressionistic stuff, but it's also relevant when typing. It's not what I like to base a whole typing on, but to me, she's giving lots of like four-ish sort of faces and an affect here. It's a different kind of withdrawn plus frustration influence than we see with like 9-wing 1 core.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And there's something with withdrawn and frustration together, to me, that can feel like witnessing someone receiving a bunch of little paper cuts at once. As a 2, I want to come in and like make that better. Like, how can I soothe these all these tiny little paper cuts?
Mm-hmm.
What else? She said something. She talks a lot about some of these symbols signifying the loss of childhood innocence, and I think that really kind of speaks to something about her trifix overall. Again, it's that combination of the wonder and the magic and the beauty that's below the surface, maybe not seen by everyone, but also the darkness that's introduced and takes some of that innocence away. She specifically said something about one of the ways in which the child loses its innocence is through not being seen.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a powerful moment that stood out to me.
Right. So she talks about these issues of being seen as a way of losing innocence, and that can be a tell for 9. 9s have a lot of issues about being seen, not being seen. And it could also be a tell for image. So the question is it about how is it a problem of being seen and how you exist in the environment around you? Or is it how you're being seen for your inherent qualities and how those are valued?
Yeah, that's an excellent point. Like, it's not about, like, what she's describing in the moment is sort of more about her, I don't know how else to say this, but heart gifts, rather than like her context in the world, her context in relation to the environment or the container that she's in.
Right. And even the symbol of the child bride, and I hope I'm not gonna upset her if she ever watches this video, but there is something about that seems very tied to value. It's like, how could you possibly devalue a child more than selling them off as a child bride?
Wow, yeah. Incredible.
So, I mean, that pretty clearly indicates poor heart in her, I think. But Sierra also responds in an interesting way to this issue of the bad questions, the wrong questions being asked.
I think it's interesting how attuned, you can really see it here, how attuned Sierra is to not only her own way that she wants to be in context with the environment, but also others and the way that they might want to be. I think that's, I've talked a bit about that being sort of the gift of 9, is that we're able to not only create space and ideal harmonious space for ourselves, but also allow for that space to exist for others. So I think it's interesting that when Bianca starts to get frustrated, you see Sierra first holding back and just kind of waiting to see, is this a good time to insert myself or not? And then, making sure that's what's wanted from Bianca. She doesn't want to just jump in and talk over her, make sure she has the space to express herself. And then when Bianca kind of gives her these subtle signs of, yeah, I'm not going to answer this, then she jumps in and helps. I think it also speaks to, in contrast to Bianca, Sierra's stacking. I think that Bianca is SOSP, and I think that Sierra is SPSO. And so she's able to move toward both Bianca and the interviewer in a way that creates this cohesion where the conversation can propel forward.
Mm-hmm. The beauty of social middle, a detachment.
Yeah. And able to meet each of them where they are for social to function without like getting in her own way because she's upset about the social connection situation.
Mm-hmm.
Hi guys, how was your show?
Amazing. Yeah, like it is as amazing as a summer festival show can be.
And it's your first time here on tour?
Yeah, I think it's our first time. Yeah. We don't remember.
Yeah. You don't remember? Maybe it's in the past. You already
Maybe.
How do you like Belgium?
Belgium is a sweet place with a beautiful audience.
You really stayed once in Belgium, or are you always busy touring and you can stay here for a long time?
I think we're just passing through. Every time we come through Belgium, we're just in a whirlwind of music and travel.
Just seeing a small kind of things. Sierra, I saw you were going crazy on stage. Are you becoming another person on stage?
I'm losing my mind. Yeah, I'm becoming another person, and I'm highly inspired by Takuya on the trumpet and Tez on the beatbox. And yeah, Bianca and I, at one point in the show, we started singing together, and we couldn't hear anything because the sound was exploding and crazy, so we got really close so that we could hear our own actual live voices, because our faces were smushed together. We started harmonizing, and then we got down on the floor and we raised our hands, and then the crowd went crazy, and then I crowd surfed.
So that was interesting right there, the way that she was asked a question about what she was doing and then she deflected it off of herself.
Yes, definitely. So she's asked, why she's gone crazy up there or whatever, and she starts bringing in or shining the light, so to speak, on other members of the band, which to me in a way is sort of what 3-wing 2 is often doing. It's often acting as the mirror to shine light on others and help them sort of rise, like we've talked about it before, as it being kind of life coachy. I think that's why it's able to fit well in that role, because it can hold the mirror up to you and show you what is great within yourself so that you can rise together. And then this also, just quickly to reference back to the last one, there's a point where she's answering the questions about the end of time, that also to me carried this same sort of 3-wing 2 energy and answer, where, and also 9-wing 1, where she's kind of referencing how people, the 9-wing 1 part is like how people should be and how people could be, and then sort of providing them the tools in being able to see that ability in themselves and be able to improve things together collectively.
Yeah, and it's also interesting. You know, there's a lot of like Sierra has a lot of focus on the energies of a space. So she's really, even though she's doing the 3-wing 2, shining the beam of light on the other musicians, she's also like talking about that within the context of like the vibes of the room, how these people are making the vibes so incredible that she was able to go crazy on the stage. So
yeah, definitely. I mean, I think, you know, our little nickname for this trifix, she would be 973, is the wedding singer. And why are wedding singers, like, what are they good at to make them good wedding singers? Well, they're good at like creating the vibes of the room, you know, responding to, like, with 9 and 3 kind of responding to what's needed and what's desired, with 9 and 7 able to kind of elevate that and make it fun. You know, this is the, to me, this energy as a whole archetypally is very, I know it very quickly when I see it in other people, because they are, the double assertive gives them a strong presence and ability to raise the vibrations in the room.
yeah, even from a 9 core.
Yeah, and it's all about, you know, good good vibes, you know, it's creating good times. And yeah, so I think it really stands out here overall archetypally. Just, I mean, she's you can see she's high energy, she's very so it's not just about vibes in general, it's creating these sort of like fun, like party girl vibes.
Yeah, I saw. You came perfectly okay on stage back.
You know what? It was the best crowd surfing experience I ever had. It was amazing.
Oh,
And with my band doing like underwater slow motion reggae, it was super psychedelic.
All right, I like to hear that. Isn't it strange? You have a lot of serious, deep songs as well about child abuse and stuff. Is it strange to, I don't know, to dance on them or to go
That's
completely
kind of our
local?
style. It's like dancing on the graves, you know?
Dancing on the graves.
So just to reiterate what was said, because I don't think the closed captioning caught it, the interviewer said, you have a lot of serious songs about topics like child abuse, but then your dancing isn't that strange to be dancing? And Bianca said, that's kind of our style, dancing on the graves. So that is a very interesting point, because, you know, there aren't a lot of examples of what 2 positive fixes does to 4. And I think that right there is a very good confluence of those things. Like, you wouldn't, if you look at Bianca, you would not think that this is a peppy, optimistic person. in any way. Like 7 and 9 is not going to take 4 and turn it into something joyous, but there is, this way of transforming the macabre through these double positive fixes. And that's what positive outlook is doing, is taking the gut and using it, wielding it for action.
Yeah, beautiful. And I think it's a great visual, what she said, to just like, archetypally, we think of this this trifix as being kind of, witchy, like I can see fire and dancing in the cemetery and all kinds of magical things happening, which is kind of the cool combination when you combine those 3 types that comes out, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's still a focus primarily on the fallenness of things. Like it's not really an optimism.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like, I don't know if this is still because it's my tendency. I don't know if this is still bringing too much happy to it. So, but like what I feel called to say in that is sort of like a celebration of the darkness.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe celebration, as I said, is still just too just too positive of a word, but
Yeah. Or like a celebration of the ability to persist through the darkness. I don't know how I'll feel about that statement later when we publish this video. Okay.
we can assess before publishing.
Yeah. Continuing on.
Yes.
Out. She's written so many poems. They're just there.
You wrote since you were really small?
Since she was 9.
Yeah.
And she has this suitcase still from then. Anytime we need something, the source is just there.
Are you still writing? The luggage is still...
Yes, it's still accumulating. Mostly typewriter stuff.
And what are your poems about?
Well, mostly about animals and tea stains and tobacco and rivers and animals making poo and gypsies and
Glowworms?
a lot of nonsense.
Glowworms?
Nonsense. Like stuff that doesn't make sense.
But it's somewhere in your head, though. You have to find it somewhere.
Sometimes it just rhymes. I use a lot of silly names. Like names of people I don't even know because they
So what I love about this part is it kind of also highlights to me what 7 can potentially do to 4. So 4 is coming from a position of I will never be understood. No one can possibly understand my inner world, which I lack the gut ability to actualize and embody in the real world. And so why don't I, with my 7 fix, just like capitalize on that shit and make it really funny and like create these things that are actually kind of nonsense, and they just rhyme. And yeah, and then I also I just love this imagery of her carrying around this vintage suitcase that's just filled with all of these little poems that she's been writing since she was 9 on a typewriter. And they just open them up and they all, Sierra describes it as, we just open the suitcase up and all these poems spill out. I just love that kind of whimsical energy that gives me, just imagining that happening.
Yeah. I think also in this interview, there's a good contrast between the double assertive, single withdrawn energy Sierra and the double withdrawn, single assertive energy Bianca.
Yes, very good point. Totally.
Like Sierra is really staying in motion.
Things are gonna explode.
We were with like hundreds of people, like 10, 9, ready everyone, 9, 8.
Nothing happened.
And everyone's like, ah! This ending point that so many artists and filmmakers have been really obsessed with. We've been thinking about, okay, what's next? You know, and if the earth really is going through these changes, you know, what does that mean for humankind? What kind of changes are we going to go through? You know, what are we going to look like? We're obviously going to be developing, like, you know, a lot of facial hair and transformation, you know, physically and kind of stylistically. I think we're going to return to the earth, you know, and eventually start to veer from this from the tech age. What did they say? I guess 2012 is a very popular fantasy for a lot of change, starting from the Mayan culture. And so we'll kind of, I don't know.
I've been kind of disappointed though.
I mean, Y2K was a bust.
Yeah, I mean, that was really a big bummer. I was really looking forward to that. I thought, like, when I heard all the internet was going to collapse and stuff, I thought that was pretty exciting.
So I love that. I feel like that speaks to both of their 7 heads, that they were excited about Y2K and the internet collapsing and then disappointed when it didn't happen.
Yeah, and it's also really indicative to me of their stockings here, because Sierra's focus is kind of like, yeah, we need the internet to collapse because then we can all return to the earth, and sort of get more in touch, get our feet back in the grass, so to speak, right? And Bianca's draw to that is, I mean, just sort of the classic SOSP, like desire for civilization to kind of fall and crumble so that we can rebuild it in a different way. And she's referencing here as well the ways that tech is kind of corrupting society. They both are, but Sierra is the one who's bringing it back to, yes, then we can return to the earth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's interesting, you know, like, I think if they had a different Trifix, there wouldn't be quite this, like, gleeful sort of impish excitement about chaos.
Right. Like, yay, it's the end of the world.
Oh yeah, here is a really good one with Bianca.
Yes.
Okay, hi everybody. Behind the camera, the voice you're hearing, this is Zach Rosen from the New Gay here in Washington, D.C. We are outside the Black Cat with Bianca Casady from CocoRosie. So Bianca, how are you doing?
Pretty well, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. We don't probably have a lot of time. I appreciate the time you're giving me. So as blunt as this might sound, how do you actually identify in terms of kind of orientation and gender identity? I don't want to get that wrong to start off the interview.
Well, I spent a lot of my teenage years identifying as gay, and kind of endured that. And I guess as I get older, I kind of disinherit a lot of the terminology, you know. But I think because of my past and sort of what I went through, I kind of, regardless of who I'm dating, it still kind of makes sense for me to identify as gay, pretty much.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
So I just want to pause it and talk about that really quickly. I think that in there, I think it really amplifies her social dom, but also the wing on her heart. Because she's using the social language, but she's got her sense of identity is thoroughly self-defined, even though she's using this like social set of terminology. It's not like taking the standard and pushing against it. It's just thoroughly self-defining.
Yeah. I love that. And it is really a fascinating combination that she has here, because I mean, to be social dominant and like the like something that kind of comes with that is sometimes this desire and necessity to give oneself some sort of social label or something like that. But, you know, for obvious reasons, that doesn't pair seamlessly with 4. Like, because you don't want to put yourself together with the collective, and have to, as you said, continue to self-define. So yeah, this video illustrates like how you can continue showing this self symbol that is just you, while also finding a way to weave that into some social first context, which is fascinating.
Yeah, definitely. And just to clarify, like what we're thinking here is 4-wing 5 heart rather than 4-wing 3, because it would be, you know, pushing against the standard. That would be 3 is the standard. 3 as like the broadly accepted set of what is valued, like consensus value. And with 4-wing 5, it's interesting because 4 and 5 are both sort of pseudo social blind, but she's social dominant. So there's an interesting, like, that's part of why that combination is so interesting.
Yeah, because energetically, she almost feels kind of SPSX, because I think you can tell, you know, that she's contraflow. I think that's sort of clear in her energy, and she kind of gives energetically a feeling similar to those who are self-pressed sexual, but everything she's talking about in almost every interview, you know, she's referencing the table of men, the, you know, things about feminism, things about mistreatment of women, children, and animals. I mean, it's all, and lyrically as well, there's tons and tons and tons of social context and sort of what is wrong and needs to be reformed within the world. So she's clearly SOSP, but I think the 4-wing 5 explains why energetically she feels a bit different than other SOSPs.
Yeah. And also not having 6 head.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm fond of the queer label myself. 'Cause no matter who you're dating, you can always be queer.
Yeah, I like that. I like the queer thing. I mean, it's always nice to be a part of something that's anti-conservative. You know.
Yeah. No, yeah, especially, I've read other interviews with you saying that people tend to just not notice how gender nonconformist you can be in your videos and in your press materials. The first thing I'll ask about is the cover of Grey Oceans where you're wearing a beard. Can you tell me a little about the origins of that?
Well, actually, we kind of, we started to fashion ourselves after elemental beings, fairies and gnomes, kind of a post-human sort of style, where gender rules don't apply in the same way necessarily, where facial hair isn't particularly explanatory of one's gender. It's more of it's more of an adornment, or just a sort of evidence that we're returning more and more to nature and sort of becoming more a part of the landscape. So it's kind of getting beyond a lot of the gender lines that humans are having to deal with.
It's always appreciable. And with as visibly as you have been kind of trying to blur gender lines, why do you think it is that you haven't gotten more attention from the queer press?
I don't know. I guess even though, you know, obviously females are really bearing the brunt of thousands of years of patriarchy, I found that male sexuality is what's really suffering in these days. And if you find a sort of like a man with a sort of obscure gender, or male to female transgender person, it's really uncomfortable societally and gets a lot of attention. And I think, and I've just seen when women are doing the same kind of thing, it's pretty much ambiguous, which is what really became apparent to me, seeing other people really suffer. I'm not sure what that is. Maybe it's the invisibility of the females still in some way. I don't know. It's kind of wrong.
Do you think people are more comfortable, as you're saying, with someone like you in a mustache than they are with, say, Anthony Hegarty?
Definitely.
Do you think there's a big kind of trans or gender non-binary community or visibility in contemporary indie rock?
I don't know really what's happening in music, but
I mean, that's a great moment right there. Oh, I don't really know what's happening in the music industry in general.
I know, I love that. I love that. I also really enjoyed her wording when she's describing these sort of elemental beings that they're representing aesthetically. She uses the words post-human. She said they're kind of post-human beings. And I love that particularly as another representation for social self-pres, because you know, we see in collage and even through history and symbolically in the way that they speak, a lot of this idea of like new human or like new sort of being formed from the creation of new worlds or something. And so yeah, just this kind of post-human gives me this like post-apocalyptic vibe that I like.
Yeah, right, like considering the greater arc of humanity.
Major cities, I think, like, gender's becoming very ambiguous in a lot of the creative scenes which are sort of dominating and influencing the world, especially like dance.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you take sort of the Vogue community, which is stronger in New York, but sort of spreading to a lot of different places. It's like infiltrated television and everything. It's really dominated by transsexuals. And I don't know, things are kind of breaking down very recently, I feel like.
Is that where tranny power comes from?
Yeah.
It's another good little social self-pres moment. I feel like things are breaking down recently.
Yes. So I think in this video, we really got clear in part on what was leading. I think when we first started looking into Bianca and Sierra, we were, we went in with an open mind. We weren't sure how it was going to end up, and what their typings were going to be. We had some sense of withdrawn for both. I think even starting out, but we were sorting through, is it for Bianca, is it 9-wing 1 core, or is it 4 core? And then from there, we were trying to determine wings. And as you pointed out, we determined a 5-wing for Bianca here. And something that I said when we did that is like the way, sort of the difference I see between 4-wing 3 and 4-wing 5 is 4-wing 3 is more like haughty princess vibes, and 4-wing 5 is more like fallen angel vibes. And I think that you also mentioned something about how there's kind of this otherworldly and ethereal sense of it, which I thought was really good.
Yeah, having a withdrawn wing on a withdrawn core versus an assertive wing, lending to this like really otherworldly quality. And it's interesting because 5 is usually associated with like grotesqueness in a way, and 3 is associated with like like perfection and whatnot. And it's so interesting how like 4-wing 5 really tends to manifest in a much more delicate way than 4-wing 3. 4-wing 3 feels like it's a lot more like in the muck, a lot more hateful.
Yeah, there's a kind of like angelic fragility, but like fallen angelic fragility to it or something. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
And again, I think this video illustrates, I mean, all of them have like how heavy and how forward she is with frustration. What we're seeing with Bianca throughout all of these is obviously heavy frustration. But what is it frustration with? Like it's not, I mean, sure, she's got this 9-wing 1 fix, so there's some frustration with the environment, but that's not the it's not the main focus. That's not what's like driving each conversation forward or bringing it to a halt. There's more of this, I'm misunderstood, and so why even try to bring this to you, because you can't possibly understand the value and the meaning. Why are you even continuing to ask me questions?
Right, he's demonstrating his unworthiness.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Whereas Sierra, she's trying to like correct the vibe in the room as they're experiencing the interview.
Right. Yeah. Constantly bringing up or adjusting or making sure that the vibes are okay, because she's frustrated with the way it feels between everybody, and how that is impacting her environment and making it uncomfortable.
Right, and she's very much picking up her sister's discomfort and pain and trying to address that.
Bianca on social self-pres, 4-wing 5 core, with 7 and 9 fixes, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we're actually thinking 7-wing 8 rather than 7-wing 6 for her, because despite her social fluency, there doesn't seem to be any referencing of the grid. She's familiar with social concepts. She's familiar with how they affect her, but she's not tapping into the grid when she's discussing, the various ways that she's conceptualized the world. Her world map is self-defined in that way. And we also think it makes sense for her to have double assertive, the 8-wing on the 7, to give her that extra push of like movement and like forward thrust out into the world to be creating her art when she's, essentially fairly crippled by double withdrawn core, withdrawn gut.
The other interesting thing that does is that gives her two gut wings. So if we've got wing 8 and wing 1, that gives a core withdrawn 4 who is disconnected from gut and life force energy a little bit more of a way to access and tap in order to, create things. Overall, it's a fascinating combination. I mean, even social self-pres and 4-wing 5 together, in a lot of ways just don't make sense. And so it creates this very fascinating person. And yeah, the typing overall is just really, really interesting.
Everyone wants to go to Iraq, but once they go, they don't come back. Bringing peanut butter jelly and other snacks. We might have our freedom, but we still don't crack. Everybody wants to go to Japan. Everybody wants to go to Japan. Everybody wants to go to Japan. Everybody just hold hands. Everybody just hold hands. Everybody just hold hands. Everybody just hold hands.
Sierra, we're thinking 9 core, 9-wing 1. So there is frustration present, but it's, bodily frustration with the environment. And then we talked about her 3-wing 2 heart, the way that she directs the light onto those around her to uplift those around her. And we talked about her 7 head. We think it's a 6-wing because she is tapped into a kind of sense of consensus superego, even if she's flaunting it and like pushing away from it, being like, hee, I was climbing a fence naked because I was trespassing in a swimming pool at night.
Yeah, there's like this sense of knowing a little bit of what the map or the grid is, and then saying, I don't give a fuck, I'm gonna do what I want because it's fun. Not in like the same rebellious way as like 6-wing 7, but just just having that sort of knowledge and access to know that it, maybe could be a thing that would be received a certain way, or tapping into this sort of knowledge that that categorizes things in a way that Bianca just isn't in the headspace.
Yeah, completely.
And then 3-wing 2, as we mentioned. So we're at SPSO 9-wing 1, 7-wing 6, 3-wing 2 for Sierra, and this would give her a 1-2-6 ghost, which I think is really fitting. And we didn't get into this a lot in the interviews that we chose, but I think it can really be seen in a lot of their music. That she mentions as well that she has like favorite saints, and there is this strong presence that I don't just think is coming from both of them having social, of sort of super ego themes and religious imagery, and the idea of good and evil, and sort of challenging that and questioning that, and wondering, is there, again, this may illustrate her head a little bit, like, is there within the context of these existing religions a new religion that could be formed that could give us a new perspective on what it means to be human and in the world, and what defines who God is, and or isn't, and so it's sort of playing with ideas based on these super ego concepts that exist, and creating new fantasy worlds that they can exist in and how they can present.
Yeah. Another thing that is interesting with their lyrics is you've said that there's a lot of two stuff going on in the lyrics, and if Bianca is a 4-core, then she has that line to 2.
Yeah, some of them hit me just like a knife in the heart, and I can, as I said, I've listened to them for so long, and it feels like I dive deeper and find a new level of meaning every time I hear a song of theirs. So it's like, I start here and I'm getting something from it, and then both emotionally and through some sort of insight, when I listen again, I'm finding like another layer and another thing that can mean. And a lot of times it really hits me like right in my 2 heart. Like and so yeah, I think that's a combination of Sierra's super ego mirror, because she is, or ghost, because she is contributing to some of the lyrics and some of the themes, but also, as you said, Bianca's line to 2, I've been discovering, as I've deepened my own understanding of 2 and 4, ways in which they are 2 sides of the same coin, and that they, yeah. So it's just been fascinating to listen to that and hear that, and then discover that there's not actually that much 2 influence in the typings of both of them, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. So do we need to do a little like Synflow wrap up thing?
I'm honestly so bad at those, so
I know.
you can just say
Bye.
bye, farewell.
Calling out his name.